This is going to be video number 14, which is also the first one in stage 6 in our series of tutorials for building our Drive app. So, just like in the beginning of every stage, we have the written guide for that stage, and I also have, of course, the last scene or the last steps from the previous stage. The setup is just as usual to start from the end of stage 5, to download and unzip the teacher's stage 6 teacher pack. Not every stage has a teacher pack, but this one does, not a big one. Copy paste into assets, which I already did. Here it is. The stage 6 basically has just fonts. So this is why it's relatively small. And to duplicate the scene, just to have like a historical breadcrumb path of how we got here, and call it stage 6 and open it. And here's the scene. Drive stage 6, duplicate, and double click to open it. Now let's start with the actual steps. The main thing in this stage, in stage 6, is to build a UI, or in other words, a dashboard for the car that shows, speed and the amount of time that passed since we started the lap, and the amount of laps that we completed, and our best lap, and so on, like a whole dashboard. We're going to open the player, open the vehicle, and as a child of vehicle, we're going to create, we've done this before, an empty game object called UI. We're going to reset transform. So player, vehicle, as a child of vehicle, right click, empty, its name is UI. We're resetting transform, which means it's relative to its parent, which is the vehicle. It's on the vehicle. Double clicking to get myself close to it. And here it is. The next thing we're going to do is, before we start entering text objects, we want like a license plate, basically like an image. So we're going to create a UI image. It'll also create a canvas. Just anything that you create from UI needs to sit in a canvas. So by creating a text or a Text Mesh Pro or an image, it creates a canvas, and I'm gonna call the image BGUI, background UI. So if I go to UI, right click, go to the category UI and start an image, it started a canvas, and the name of the image will be BGUI, background UI. As we've done in the past, before we deal with the object itself, we're going to give the canvas. So step number 4, give the canvas, not the image. So going up one level, the following parameters. First change, of course, is render mode to world space. We've done this before. Don't forget, don't upgrade to OVR overlay canvas, and uncheck canvas scaler and graphics raycaster. So first of all, if I go to the canvas, it's grayed out because screen space needs to be changed to world space. This is very tempting. Upgrade to OVR overlay canvas. This is something we do when we want what's called unlit canvas, which means it will be unaffected by the lighting of the world around it. We don't need it. I tested it. It's not what we need for this app. The other thing it says is to uncheck, because we're not going to need it, the graphic ray scaler and the canvas scaler, and the rest of it will be numbers that we're going to copy from the guide. So let's arrange them side by side to make it convenient to see. And here's how the canvas is going to be. Position X 0, I'm going by what I'm seeing here, 0 and 0 and 0. You can see that the image is already taking over. We're going to fix that. The width and height is simply going to be 10 by 10. We don't need anything, huge like that. Even 10 by 10, 10 meters by 10 meters is still already way more than we'll ever need. And we're even going to scale it down, because the scale of the canvas is going to be 0.2. 0.2 on all, and it's still way bigger than we need. That will be up to the image. we're done with these numbers, and the rest of it will be world space. The camera will be the center eye camera. Going to the scene and selecting the center eye camera, even though it's not going to make much of a difference. Everything else is default. Nothing else to change here. Going back to the guide. Going back to the guide, now we're going to give the image itself, the child of the canvas, the following parameters. When you choose the color, optional, try to give it some alpha, like, less than 255, or in other words, less than totally opaque, to make it a little transparent. So look at what we're going to do for this image. Again, the image is a child of the canvas, the BGUI. Look at what we're going to give it. Position, everything, the position X is 0, position Y is 2. So it's a little higher. And position Z is -5 because we want it at the back of the car, like it's at the position where a license plate would be, but it's acting like a dashboard. Width 7.5 by 3.6, and it's already a lot more reasonable. When I double click on it, yeah, it's like, at the back. All these numbers, the 0.5 stay the same, the rotation all zeros, but there's going to be some furthermore scaling down. The X 0.35, again, I'm doing all of this to the image, BGUI. The height is going to be 0.7, and the Z is going to be 0.4. Now, there's something here that still looks a little too big. Let's see why for the canvas. Something still makes... Oh, maybe it's because I haven't given it all the parameters yet. We'll see. BGUI 035, 07, 04. The next thing we're going to do is give it like a source image, because in other words, I'm going to give it a shape. So its source image, which is also called a sprite, is going to be something that came with the standard assets, which is basically a rectangle with rounded corners. That's what I want. The source image is going to be a slider handler sprite. Handle sprite. Gonna find it under S. Here it is. And now it gets the right proportions. That's about as big as I want it to be. And you can see when I get close to it that it's basically a rectangle with nice rounded corners. Its material is going to be none, but its color is going to be that, kind of like purple that I like. But as it suggests, I'm going to set the alpha to be a little less than 255, like 200 something, and you can see that it affects the transparency. I want it to be like almost transparent. Let's say 230, 215, something like that. It's totally up to you. Everything else, the raycast target and the maskable, can be on or off, doesn't matter. We're not using it anyway. The vehicle should have a plate in the back, and it does. When I get away from it, when I rotate a little bit, yep, it has like a plate in the back, and on that plate, I'm going to put some text. As a matter of fact, I gotta say, it's a little too transparent to me. So I'm gonna raise this to like 240. I can always adjust it later on. To taste. Step number 7. We are going to be using the type of text known as TextMesh Pro. In previous apps, we have used two kinds of text. One of them is the legacy text or the classic text. And its main advantage of the classic text is that we can use any font we want. All we got to do is copy the font itself, the TTF, the OTF font, into the assets in Unity, and Unity can use it. The advantage of the TextMesh Pro type of text is that it looks way nicer, way sharper, and we can do a lot more to the text. But the disadvantage of TMP is that it comes with only specific sets of fonts. Kind of limited. Nice fonts, but limited. So what we're going to do is convert a regular font to a TextMesh Pro font to have kind of like the best of both worlds. The advantage of the crispiness of the TMP kind of text, plus the ability to use our font, because they provided us with a conversion tool. So we're going to go to the window menu, find the submenu called TextMesh Pro, find the tool called Font Asset Creator, and two dialogues will pop up. One of them to install TMP, and we're going to import TMP Essentials, and the second one is going to be to import TMP Examples. So import, sorry, not here, but window, TextMesh Pro, Font Asset Creator, and here, well, it didn't come up with that dialog. That's because I already actually practiced ahead of time doing that. So what we can do, if the dialog does not show up, I can always do it manually. Window, TextMesh Pro, import TMP Essentials, and it's already imported because I did it before I started the video. And after that, window, TextMesh Pro, import TMP Examples and Extras. I believe I already imported them, but wouldn't hurt to import them again. In any case, if dialog, two dialogues will pop up. Let me add, or if dialogues don't pop up, go to, it's going to be window, TextMesh Pro, and find both things to import. Instead of saying both things, let me be more specific. And find and the import extras. I want to be totally clear. Finally, in the dialog Font Asset Creator, you may need to reopen it if it closed. Browse for the font called Alien GUI Bold. So if the dialog, oh my God, where's that dialog? I can always go back to Window, TextMesh Pro, Font Asset Creator. Already, as you can see that I practiced for this, but it's going to show this font as Alien League Bold, Alien League Bold, and right now it's a regular font. What do we do in order to convert it? Click the Generate Font Atlas, then save, and preferably to the fonts folder, the same folder where the regular font was. And then we have a new font that we can use. So again, Window, if it disappears, and it does once in a while, TextMesh Pro, Font Asset Creator, I browse for that font, and I click Generate Font Atlas, which takes it a second. It says that it's missing 2 characters, but it's not characters that we need. And then save. And it's going to be saved as the same name font, Alien League Bold, but it's going to add SDF, which is the name of the fonts for TextMesh Pro, .asset. Where am I going to save it? Into the fonts folder. Save. It's asking me if I want to replace it because I've done this before. But for you, probably if you're doing it for the first time, it's not going to ask if you want to replace. So now my fonts, let me actually make sure, my fonts include a font that TextMesh Pro can use. And now we're going to actually use it. So we just finished step number 8. In the canvas, create a UI text, and it's going to be a Text Mesh Pro, we're going to give this text the name time this lap and the following parameters. So I'm going to make it easy to look at. Like this. So in the canvas, a second child, UI, Text Mesh Pro, and already, shows like, ridiculously, big text. The name of the text instead of TextTMP is going to be time this lap, and let's start following all the parameters. 0.55 on the X, and 2.44. You will see what those numbers will eventually bring us to. Position Z is going to be a negative 5.02. If you remember, the image is at negative 5, so why 5.02? So it's a little in front of the image, so the image does not obscure it. Width does not need to be that big. 2.4 by 0.32. You would think that this is going to scale down the text, but it looks like it disappeared. The reason it disappeared is because the fonts are still big and they just can't find themselves in this tiny space. But once we scale down the font, or best fit the font, it'll fit just great. All these numbers stay 0.5 and 0 and 1 and transparent, cull transparent mesh. All this stays the same. The text is going to be, or the default text, this lap. And I'm putting 00:00 just to make sure that there's enough room for it. Sorry, not 00, but 00:00. Then important is to change the font from that default Liberation Sans. That's the default font that comes with Text Mesh Pro, to that Alien League Bold that we just converted. Then the Alien League Bold SDF material becomes the default. Now, as far as font size, you see how it says 0.3, but it's grayed out? The reason it's grayed out is because of this checkbox called auto size. And even now it's 18 and not 0.3, but it's going to become 0.3 when we change the minimum to 0 all the way down. And now you can see how this lap fits perfectly, and using our Alien font. Other things to take care of are the alignment, and I'm using the same alignment as the default. It's aligned left and aligned top. Now, why not aligned center? We talked about it in class probably, because if it's aligned center, it's going to twitch every time it gets a little wider or a little narrower. I'll place it in the center, but the text inside the box will always be aligned left. So only the right side will seem like it's, like changing width when it changes from 0 to 1 to 2 and so on. And what you should see is what we see right now. This lap, and the vehicle has a dashboard with one text. If it looks good, duplicate the text 3 more times for a total of 4, and we're going to name them speed, lap count, and best lap, the duplicates. So edit, duplicate, edit, duplicate, edit, duplicate. Make sure you're duplicating the text, and their names are going to be speed and lap count. I think the names are very self-explanatory. Now, in this case, you can follow the capitalization that I'm using, but it's not essential because this is not part of the script. The objects will be mentioned in the script, and when we mention them in the script, then it's going to be case sensitive. But it's just as objects in Unity, they're not. In other words, the variables that define them, those are going to be in C# and case sensitive and everything. And best lap. Lap count, best lap. And I use a capital B, so I might as well be consistent with my own instructions. And I even used a capital S for speed. Now, here's what I'm going to do. The next instructions is basically to move the Y position So they are one above each other because they're duplicates, but I don't want to be one on top of each other or one, obscuring each other. I want them to be nicely distributed, height-wise, and it gives you the exact numbers. And then it tells you on steps number 13, 14, 15, and 16, 13, 14, and 15 to change the text for each one of them. So what I will do is stop this tutorial at this point. Please do steps number 12 through 16 on your own, and end up with step 17, arranging the text any which way you want. So I'll see you in the next part, which will be video 15 and the second one in stage 6, when we all have a dashboard that looks like this.